everybody, it's me, Zach. This is Potato, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. Hi, hello. How are you doing? I hope you're doing so well today. Over the years of doing the YouTubies, I've gotten many requests at different points, at different times on my channel to talk about, to cover, to discuss a YouTuber named Glitterandlazers, or you may also know her as Anna O'Brien. If you're not familiar with Glitterandlazers, well, honestly, I don't know. I'm gonna give you a crash course on how I became familiar with her, and hopefully maybe that will help you understand a little bit more about who she is, what her content is about, and things like that. But overall, I would say despite having a lot of requests to cover her on my channel, I've mostly avoided it over time. So I haven't ever really, I maybe brought her up a few times in videos and context of talking about ways to do fashion hauls, clothing hauls, etc. And the only time I explicitly have referenced her in recent history is this past fall. I went to New York City and she had a really infamous bagel video where she walked 2 miles or something like that to get a bagel from this bagel shop and was devastated when she got the wrong bagel.
I got home, I immediately put on my pajamas, and I was so excited because I opened my bagel and I'm like, I can't wait to eat my pumpernickel bagel because it's my favorite thing, pumpernickel. I'm an old man at heart, and you know what? It's not pumpernickel. They messed it up. It's not even the right bagel. It's not even the right cream cheese. It's oat. It's an oat bagel with, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's veggie cream cheese. So somebody else probably has my order. This is probably somebody else's bagel. Well, what a way to end this video. I walked 2 damn miles in pain for a bagel. I didn't even get the right bagel. I don't think you guys know how hard that was for me. And I'm I don't know whether to cry or laugh because God, sometimes you just can't win. Sometimes you just can't win. Well, I walked 2 miles for a bagel and I guess I didn't get it.
And I recreated that when I went to New York City, and I think I was actually pretty empathetic towards her. I could understand the frustrations of walking all that way, but she did make quite a scene in her video that she posted to the YouTube. Anyways, when I originally found Anna, or at least I think when I originally found Anna, or at the very least the video I remember the most about when I first discovered Anna was a long, long time ago when she hauled a bunch of clothing from LuLaRoe.
I was sold the dream and I was waiting for it to come true. And let me show you what I got, because it's a piece of crap. These are the leggings I got. So the first thing that I loved is that, I don't know if you can see it, but my leggings came complete with holes there, and just across the butt in general. This is because it's made with really cheap fabric. So I was like, oh great, so complete with holes. I didn't know they made distressed leggings like they made distressed jeans now. So then I started looking at the leggings themselves. Look at how it's sewn together. Who the hell did the seaming? Seriously, this is the worst seaming on a product ever. Yeah, I want a giant, unshapen triangle mass on my vagina.
LuLaRoe is an MLM company, if you're not familiar, and they're known for selling leggings and tights with weird patterns and stuff on them, but also I think they had some t-shirts and dresses and stuff like that. And Anna had a video about it and she ripped LuLaRoe to shreds. She was very critical about it. Basically said that she didn't think it was good quality, lots of stuff like that. And honestly, that was like a sweet spot for me in terms of like content I was interested in, because I've been fascinated with MLMs for a really long time. And also, despite my current appearance and my camo sweatshirt that I'm wearing, I am really interested in fashion. I love Project Runway, and of course, watching all seasons of Project Runway makes me an expert on fashion. So finding Anna's LuLaRoe video and then diving deeper into all of like the clothing hauls that she did really piqued my interest, and I really liked her clothing hauls back in the day. Like, as somebody who genuinely doesn't actually know a whole lot about fashion or how clothes are made and things like that, I felt like I learned a lot from Anna about the construction of garments, the materials that they're made out of, how fashion brands do or do not make good plus size clothing. Like, I was really interested in the content that she shared on the internet. I will say that's not to say that she's not without criticism when it comes to her fashion hauls. I feel like over time I've seen a lot of people frustrated that she buys the wrong size of clothing for a lot of her hauls, whether that's intentional on her end or not. Like, she seems to ruffle feathers sometimes when she buys the wrong size of clothing. But yeah, it seemed like overall to me that most people wanted me to just comment on her, react to her, mention her on my channel because she was a plus size woman, which, like, to be fair, I covered a lot of problematic plus size women on my channel, so it makes sense. But I didn't get it, at least for the majority of the time, because I genuinely enjoyed her content. But something really shifted, I think, for her and for her audience when one day she decided to vlog in a Target.
I'm gonna help my girls out.
Okay.
They look absolutely horrific.
All right.
Maybe put her in there.
Just
so they can
horrific.
have a holiday look. It looks terrible. Like, what is this? This girl has a beanie on too. It's so bad. Okay, I'm gonna keep her pants because I think it's gonna be too much to switch her pants. Honestly, these two mannequins
Just
should be
strip her
together,
down.
'cause they're both going to a party. We're not gonna keep her.
You know best, Anna. Just strip her down. Yeah, you don't want her flashing everybody. The shoes are cute.
Give me
My
that.
girl is me.
Give me that. I know what I'm gonna use. Get this in.
There's a Target person like right across the way, and I'm just having to pretend like nothing's happening.
Just don't do it in the first. Okay.
And then I realized, oh, there is something off about this diva. And I will say, in addition to that Target, in general, she just loves to act a fool in public. I remember in more recent history, I saw on her Instagram that she just like made herself at home in a Costco. And you could like literally see the people in the background of her photos being like, what is this woman doing? But I think for me and for a lot of other people, the more frustrating parts of her channel have been her attempts to go back and forth between being some kind of like health influencer to caring about her weight sometimes to not wanting to talk about it at other times to being really upfront about some of the struggles she faces with her weight, to honestly not disclosing some things when it comes to her health and weight, and just leading to a lot of frustration. I mean, honestly, I would say in more recent history, more than anything else, if you asked me to describe what kind of content creator Anna O'Brien Glitterandlazers is on the internet, I don't even know that I could say that anything about her brand is fashion related anymore. And it's almost entirely surrounding health. I mean, not only is she talking about and documenting her own health journey on her social media platforms, but she also recently started a podcast with a doctor that covers medical mysteries. And I am so unclear on what qualifies Anna O'Brien to be co-hosting a podcast about medical mysteries. But I think it really all loops in with this new identity that Anna has been trying to develop online. And I do just want to say as a preface, when it comes to this video about Anna, I want to cover it with the most like empathy and understanding that I can, especially coming from myself as a content creator who currently feels like in a little bit of a crossroads with their content. As a creator, I feel like I can relate to Anna, maybe not on literally any other level, but as like a content creator, I can relate to maybe where she's at right now in her life. Or maybe I'm just projecting some of my own problems and insecurities onto her. Or maybe it's some like secret third option that's maybe a little bit of both. But watching Anna lately on the internet, I just feel like maybe some things that I can say based on watching her experience and also sharing from my own is that trying new things on the internet is hard, i.e. trying to come on here and be this medical guru, this health guru on the internet. That's really hard. That's not something that she's known for on the internet, and so trying to make that a part of her identity, I think is hard. I think sharing about your personal life on the internet is hard. I can say that from my own personal recent history and experience, especially when you're not known for doing that necessarily, right? Like, Anna has built this brand on posting about fashion. You know, maybe every once in a while she's posting about like a vacation she gets to go on, something like that. But for all intents and purposes, has not historically shared a lot about herself as a person. And as such, like, she is now experiencing like people having opinions about that. It's one thing when people have opinions about the way you dress yourself or like maybe your personal fashion taste or like the way you edit your videos or something like that. It's another thing when people are criticizing something that is like personal to you, i.e. her health, her weight, her overall well-being has now become what she's monetizing, and thus like it probably does feel really personal when people have problems with that. And also just the other thing, I think in general, that's like very apparent from watching any social media content from Anna, whether that's on YouTube, whether that's on her Instagram, her TikTok, her Threads account. Like, making everybody on the internet happy is impossible. And I think Anna has really wedged herself into a place on the internet where it's going to be impossible to please everybody. But yet she spends a lot of time in her content trying to do that. It seems like she has shifted herself to a place where she wanted to get away from fashion hauls, fashion-related content. And she's landed on the only other thing that she really knows about or seems to be able to talk about, which is her health, her weight, her surgeries, her lymphedema, etc. And I think overall her audience has struggled to connect with that for two general broad reasons. I think the first one is just simply that this isn't the content that people probably originally signed up for. i.e. maybe they were really genuinely only interested in her thoughts about clothing and now they're just not interested in whatever health journey she's on. But also she really cultivated, whether intentional or not, an audience that was a part of the body positivity community. A lot of her fashion related hauls were focused on like finding clothing that you look good in, that you feel good in, that celebrates your body, that you feel confident in. And with the body positivity community movement, there are some people in that community that are like, losing weight is not the way. Losing weight and wanting to change your body in that way is a way of not being body positive. And so I think she really has struggled with a lot of that as well. Like, folks from that community are not sticking around because she's out here, like, trying to lose weight, which I do think is unfortunate because I think in general, like, if Anna has health-related conditions that she wants to resolve, she should be able to do that and not be, like, penalized by the internet for simply wanting to take care of herself. But when it comes to the health-related content, I think there are a number of people that would want to stick around for that, but simply have felt alienated by that content as well because she's not been super transparent about her health. And I do think some of that is at odds with like trying to maintain this community that, you know, originally found her because she seemed to be body positive. She seemed to be, you know, in support of that community. And so I think at different points in her career on YouTube, she's kind of strayed away from highlighting too much about her weight, about her health, etc. And I think that's lended itself to not being transparent about her health journey. Like, for instance, I think one of the recent things that seems most alarming to me is she was talking about getting healthy, being more active, and things like that, but then never acknowledged that, like, part of her journey was being on a GLP-1.
I have lost about 100 pounds. And in January, I stopped losing weight. I was taking Wegovy. I know I've never talked about my medication before, but it is important to the story.
And that's not to say that it's a bad thing inherently to be on a GLP-1. I think a lot of people right now are using them with the guidance of medical doctors, medical professionals, etc. I do, however, think that if you're going to be on the internet and talking about like just your amazing journey and losing weight and things like that, that it is important to be upfront and honest with your community about how you achieved that. And another big thing about transparency when it comes to her health journey is that she's seemingly also left out times when she's maybe been paid to work with the doctors that she's doing her surgery on. Like, she often says that she's a partner with this like medical team, but like doesn't really explain what that means. And partner can mean a lot of different things, right? Like, that might mean that you're getting paid to do it. It also might just mean that you're like an ambassador in some type of way and you're getting free services. It's hard to say because a lot of people know that that word partner is ambiguous. And she also fully was on a podcast that was sponsored by the manufacturer that makes Ozempic while she was taking Ozempic, but also not really talking about taking Ozempic on the podcast or anywhere else on her social media.
And I guess maybe in case it's not clear, I don't inherently think taking sponsorships on the internet is a problem. I think obviously I'm somebody who's also taken sponsorships on my channel. But I do, like, for me personally, I have turned down a lot of health-related sponsorships because I think it's, like, really weird to, I don't know, advise anybody on their health like that, like as somebody who doesn't have any expertise. And certainly I think that should be given up front if like a health related company is paying you money or giving you services or anything like that in order to promote something to their audience. And then certainly if it's unclear that that's what's happening, I think that that really matters as well, right? Like, I think you need to, as a consumer, know where that's coming from to decide how you feel about that product, about that content creator who is being sponsored by them, etc. So that's my main qualms with it. Not that she's like taking sponsorships, but just that it's a health-related sponsorship potentially. And it could be informing like her alleged expertise on the surgery, her health, etc.
So I think it's been confusing for a lot of people. I think that's a big reason her audience has struggled to stick with her and stay with her, because she's built this brand on being transparent, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit because of her recent video that inspired me to even sit down and film this video today. But she really hasn't been super transparent about the whole journey in itself. And I do just want to say, I think it's normal for people to make changes to their like YouTube channels, to their social media in general. And certainly some people are not going to come along for the ride, and I don't think that that makes Anna a bad person or anything like that. I think I'm just more interested in like how we got here more than anything, from a perspective of like, I enjoyed her content once upon a time, and now I'm just more so like interested in why she makes the decisions that she makes on the internet. But yeah, I think the shift to health influencer has just not been the move for me personally when it comes to her content. And I will say I do follow a YouTuber named Colin Mockery here on YouTube. He started out covering Anna pretty extensively, and he has since like branched out and started covering other like medical controversies and things like that. And I think his content's really interesting. Certainly go check him out if you're interested. But I just say all of that to share that like that has certainly influenced some of my thoughts about the way Anna has shared her medical journey on the internet. But the thing that really influenced all of this today is that in the past week, she uploaded a new YouTube video called We Need to Talk. And in the video, she covers the final parts of her journey. It had been a while since she posted on YouTube in general, even though she's been very active on other social media. In particular, I think the only place I like actually follow her is Instagram, so I see a lot of her Instagram posts. I don't have Threads, but I know she's pretty active over there, and I think she has a TikTok too, but I don't follow her on there. But she had made content on YouTube about the surgery she's had in relation to her lymphedema, but she stopped posting about it after the first surgery, and she has since had 2 more surgeries. And this video, I guess the goal is to get people caught up on those surgeries and also explain why she hasn't posted to YouTube in a while. And I think there are just a few things in it that kind of like articulated maybe some of my own frustrations with her shift to being this like health inspiration influencer. And I think it largely comes down to she just doesn't seem as authentic or transparent as she wants herself to come across. And she's also just very, very, very invested in responding to criticism on the internet. Despite this like transparency brand that I've talked about a little bit, she starts the video off literally talking about how she needs to update us on why she hasn't been on YouTube for so long. Which I do think is funny because it's like, you're so transparent, but you totally left the YouTube audience out of your journey and kind of just ghosted them for a long time. I had to go look up to see how long it's been, and it's been 5 months since she last posted on YouTube. I mean, specifically the last video she made was actually, speaking of her responding to internet criticism, it was a video she made to address concerns that people had about the little holiday sweater collection that she had made.
So as y'all know, a couple weeks ago, I launched a clothing line in partnership with Jolly Days. This is actually a set from that collection. So in watching some of the feedback from that video, I felt like there were some things that I needed to address and potentially even learn from.
In particular, people were upset about like the size and fit of it, and she like doubled down and said, all of this is intentional and look how it fits on these people in real life, these models that I hired to come wear it. So I do think it's interesting that the last time that she was on YouTube, she was also addressing internet criticism, but I digress. And like I said, she has been pretty active, at least on Instagram. I see her post on Instagram all the time. So I do believe she's been active in other places on the internet and documented her surgeries and things like that there. But anyways, her video has like a few discrepancies. I'm not gonna cover every discrepancy that's in the video because a lot of it is also like, I think you do have to have a little bit more medical info or knowledge to be able to talk about. But there were just some like contradictions, discrepancies, whatever you want to call it, that made me feel like they really articulated why people might feel like she's not transparent, authentic, etc. One criticism I think she's received online a lot after getting these surgeries is people kind of feeling like there isn't much change, that they can't see much difference. Probably also because I do think that like I can even think just recently she was making some Instagram stories about how like she could move so much more and like exercise didn't like exhaust her and things like that. So she's making like content of like, wow, this has really changed and impacted my life. But I think a lot of people are like, well, you don't look that different. Like nothing major seems to be different about you. So she takes some time in this video to address kind of like this concern that people have that there's not enough difference, that it's not making a difference, and insists that, like, you don't see it right away.
And when I say recovery, I mean like the very initial stages of recovery. And this is something that I realize people do not understand. They expect like the results to be immediate. And I think that's because people are very familiar with like weight loss surgery, where you do see results very quickly. Like people begin to lose weight and they're like, oh, her body's changed. That is not how these surgeries work. The recovery period for these is up to like 18 months to 2 years.
But what I find so fascinating about that is it was like maybe a couple minutes later in the video, and she's going through the extensive setup that they do to take before and after photos of her so that it remains the same every time, so you can see the difference pre and post surgery.
So every time before we actually have surgery, we take what's called pre-op photos. And this allows us to compare pre and post surgery. And it's highly controlled. So like your body's in the same positioning. I wear the same exact underwear set every single time. And it just allows you to have a really fair comparison. We talk a lot about online about how comparisons aren't always genuine. People are standing in different ways, wearing different clothing. Things are pulled up higher or lower. This allows a real, true, honest comparison before and after. And I have really focused on making sure I always have the same underwear set. I always have the same poses. I'm always smiling in my photos. I don't want you to think that I'm like sad at the beginning and happy at the end, because that's bullshit too. So I like that I have this to be able to show like the results in a real, like almost scientific way.
And I will say, I think maybe some of my confusion comes from the way she worded it of like pre and post surgery. It does make it sound like she's going to be taking more photos again, like immediately post surgery. And she does mention both in the video and actually also in a comment on her video that she'll actually have like her final after photos a year from now. But I do think the juxtaposition of going on and talking about how the changes aren't immediate, but then placing so much emphasis on these before and after photos and kind of talking about how like you want to be able to see the differences when nobody really can see the differences is really fascinating to me. And I guess my larger thoughts behind all of that is just that like liposuction, from my very limited knowledge, does feel like something that should be way more immediate than weight loss surgery. Like weight loss surgery involves like changing a part of your body that changes the way your body works, right? And so like that's not going to have an immediate change on your weight. Like that's going to happen over time. It might seem really quick compared to maybe other types of weight loss, but like that's not something that's going to happen in a week's time, maybe even in 2 or 3 weeks time, right? Like you're not necessarily going to be able to immediately spot the difference. But my understanding of liposuction is like you're literally just removing fat from the body. Like it doesn't alter the way your body works, at least to my knowledge. I will say from watching Colin's video about this particular video, he does say that Dr. Amron, who is one of the doctors that Anna has been working with on all of this lymphedema stuff, apparently Dr. Amron does have like a theory that taking out this lymphedema fat like totally changes the way your body stores fat or something like that. So I guess in this world, that is what she's waiting on for like the bodily changes that are gonna happen. And maybe that's where the misconception is happening for everybody. And I'm also just intrigued by a part of the video where she insists that she doesn't understand why people care so much about her.
I think the hardest thing about being such a public figure going through something as, you know, challenging this as this in like a bigger body is that people have a lot of opinions about it, and they honestly research your life in a way that I just never anticipated. I don't honestly think I'm that important or that interesting to have merited the content that came out of this journey from other people. It was something I did not emotionally or mentally plan for in any way, because I just didn't think I was that important.
But she immediately follows that up with talking about how important it is to her that people can be educated by her journey. People can learn from her journey. I.e., she does understand why she's so important.
I'm here for the people that need to learn about these surgeries, that need to be educated about these illnesses, who also need help, who don't know where to go, don't know where to start, don't know what it looks like. That's what I'm here for. And if anybody has an issue with that, then that's them.
And certainly this is the internet, so I imagine there are plenty of people who have taken things too far with Anna. But I will say, a consequence of positioning yourself as somebody of importance, of somebody who is an arbiter of information and education, to some extent, I think criticism comes with that. And I would also say, in general, I think it's really healthy for people to be critical of medical social media influencers, i.e. people who are on the internet saying, this is the correct way to take care of yourself. This is what you need to do to deal with this medical condition. There certainly is one thing to say about her just sharing her own experience, her lived experience, but she's literally in this video saying, I want to educate people about this. I want people to learn from me. And in that case, people should be critical of that. I think I'm also just like critical of folks who, you know, seek out being inspirational when it comes to something that they haven't even accomplished themselves yet. I think it's oftentimes why people struggle with like weight loss influencers in particular, because, you know, if you're a weight loss channel, a weight loss social media account, and you haven't already lost the weight, then you're going to be showcasing maybe some struggles along the way as well. And I think there's a way to do it where you're not like, hey everybody, I'm an expert, take it from me. And I think Anna is too far on the like, I'm an expert about all of these things, even though she also just seemingly learned about lymphedema in recent history. I don't know. I guess my thoughts on all of this is that like, I don't think Anna is inherently a bad person. I think Anna is at a crossroads, probably not just on YouTube, but maybe in her personal life. It's clear that she's concerned about her health, and I think she's trying to seek out options that are going to help her with that. And perhaps to some extent, like maybe the larger problem here is like the people that are leading her here, leading her to this place. But also, all of that being said, even if she, you know, is just trusting the doctors and stuff that she's seeing and trusting the medical professionals, which amen, do that. Like these people have spent a lot of time studying to get to this place. She's also, you know, in control of what she shares on the internet, how she shares it and things like that. And I think that that's part of the crossroads that she's at. Like this is clearly a big part of her life, and she's trying to figure out how that interacts with what she does on the internet. And I'm certainly actually excited also. At the end of this video, she talked about making a return to doing hauls on YouTube, to clothing hauls on YouTube. So, you know, I certainly feel optimistic about that. But also I do kind of just wonder, you know, what will that content look like now with the context of everything else, you know, with the understanding that she's been actively going through all of this surgery and stuff like that. What happens if there isn't a profound difference after a year's time? What is going to happen on her channel? I don't know. I think it just is a lot of questions. A lot of questions. And I think she was at a loss for like what kind of content she could make while she was going through these surgeries. Because you also have to imagine it's probably not easy to make clothing haul content when you're recovering from surgeries, right? I think a lot of the haul content even after this will be different. You know, she even in the video talked about how her body is different now, so clothing's gonna fit different, and she's got a lot of trying on to do to figure out what works with her body and stuff like that. So I imagine some of that will continue coming up in these hauls, and we're not gonna be entirely away from lymphedema content, lymphedema related content, but I think I might speak, well, I should really just speak for myself. I think for me personally, I can only hope that, you know, there's far less content related to lymphedema surgeries. Because like I said, I used to really enjoy listening to her talk about clothing. And somehow along the way, we got so far away from it that she's now doing like a medical mysteries podcast, which is of zero interest to me personally. No shade to her. And like, hopefully there is an audience out there that's watching that for her. But yeah, I don't know. And like I said, maybe some of that's like projection on my end. Like I am also, you know, thinking about what I want to do with my channel and stuff like that, and thinking about how things change over time. And so maybe this is just the natural, you know, course that Anna's channel is going, Anna's internet presence is going. But also maybe she could just like avoid talking about health stuff. I don't know. Anyways, this turned into a lot of just me yapping, so I hope that feels somewhat interesting to you all. Curious to know your thoughts. If you're brand new to my channel, thanks for being here. Consider subscribing down below. Hit the bell button so you get a notification every single time I post a new video. Leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I love you all so much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!